Spring and summer in Iowa calls just about everyone to the outdoors, particularly the water's edge, where the lakes and rivers serve as an outdoor enthusiast playground. Boating and fishing round out the repertoire as Iowans enjoy every ounce of the state's waterways. But amid the splashing, reeling, and wake-making fun, there is a menacing presence lurking below the glistening vista, disrupting the natural balance of aquatic life here in Iowa.
We have several species here in Iowa that are taking over our lakes and rivers, and the priority species for us right now are Eurasian water milfoil and zebra mussels and Asian carp, the bighead and silver carp. And all three of them share the characteristics of invasive species. They reproduce really rapidly and form really large populations that push out our native species, cause recreation to be very difficult in our lakes and rivers that have these species, and cause problems for our tourism and economy by having to treat these or deal with them in our lakes and rivers.
These non-native invaders are virtually choking out the indigenous species. The best way to understand their harm and what people can do to prevent their spread is to address each species individually, starting with the Eurasian water milfoil. This rapidly spreading plant made its way here in the 1940s. Since then, it has taken over, stunting the growth of native plant species and making it difficult for boaters to navigate these waters.
And Eurasian water milfoil is an exotic plant, not from here, and it quickly outcompetes our native vegetation. It's one of the first plants to grow in the spring, so it can crowd out the native vegetation and quickly become a nuisance situation. And it primarily reproduces by fragmentation, and so any small fragment of the plant that's transported to other bodies of water can quickly establish a new population. So it's very difficult to get on top of.
The Eurasian water milfoil is just the tip of the iceberg when talking about aquatic invasive species here in Iowa. Zebra mussels have blanketed themselves literally over every underwater surface they can attach to. Suspected to have originally hitchhiked aboard visiting vessels, zebra mussels have unfortunately made themselves at home, becoming a major problem.
Zebra mussels cause a lot of economic impact to our communities on lakes and rivers. They clog up pipes for hydropower plants and water supply plants, and it costs a lot of money for those industries to clean up their pipes and get rid of the zebra mussels. They also clog beaches. Their shells build up layers upon layers, and they're very sharp, and so they can cut your feet, and they smell when they're dying, and they're just not pleasant to have around.
What we've really noticed is that zebra mussels in the last couple of years, when we go to remove our docks and hoists, we see a lot of them in the fall attached to the posts of our docks, and then the posts and planks that are underneath the water that for our boat lifts. Really noticed that increase in the last couple of years.
And that's how it all impacts people, but they also really impact our native species. Our native mussels live on the bottoms of our lakes and rivers, and zebra mussels build up on top of those and basically suffocate them or starve them. They can't filter water to feed. And zebra mussels are filter feeders. They get their food out of the water. That's what our native mussels do. All of our small fish species also filter water. So the zebra mussels are competing directly for the food that's in the water with our native species.
Two very common fish species, bighead and silver carp, should be anything but common in these parts. However, since the 1990s, Asian carp have taken over and bullied their way into the food chain, outcompeting native fish species.
Even though they're very large fish, they are filter feeders, and so they filter their food out of the water. So they're competing directly with our native filter feeders, mussels, small fish, and even larger fish like the paddlefish. And then the silver carp are the fish that jump out of the water. Many people have seen videos of these flying carp, and they can get to be up to 100 pounds, and they'll jump up to 10 feet out of the water, and they jump into boats, and they hit tubers and water skiers, and they land in your boats and hit drivers, and they cause physical injuries. There's been broken noses and broken collarbones and concussions and people knocked off of jet skis, and really impacts recreation on our water bodies that have silver carp.
The best way to prevent the spread of aquatic nuisance species is to really educate our anglers and educate our boaters that, they cannot transport anything from one body of water to another. And it's a big education piece. And so when people are done with bait, when they're done fishing for the day, do not dispose that bait in a new body of water. And in fact, if you're done with the bait, it's best to dispose of it on land properly and not back into the same lake where you were fishing. And the other thing is when you exit a lake with a boat, check the boat trailer, check the boat for any plant fragments, and to clean your boat judiciously so you don't transport that into a new lake. And in fact, that's how we originally found our first infestation of Eurasia water milfoils. A concerned angler that called me, and we identified it correctly and got on that problem before it got out of hand.
For those on the front lines of battling this issue, it's like swimming upstream. The key to reversing this damaging trend lies solely in educating the public. As more people become aware of what they can do to help, environmental experts hope to soon see a positive shift in these troubled waters.
Well, really, the best means of control that we have for these invasive species is prevention. And so a lot of what the Department of Natural Resources does is public awareness. We talk to our boaters and our anglers and the users of our lakes and rivers about what these species are and how to identify them and how to prevent the spread. We have them in various locations across Iowa. We have billboards, we have signs at all of our boat landings, we've done radio ads, we have people that talk to boaters directly on our boat ramps, we do newspaper articles, and so we do a lot of public outreach. We want people to know what these things are and what they can do to prevent the spread of them.
The department's commitment to spreading awareness is the best line of defense. Once aquatic invasive species infest a water body, treating them is often cost prohibitive. Not to mention the fact that you can't specifically target them without affecting other indigenous species.
And what we like to say is there's 3 words to remember: clean, drain, and dry. And really, to prevent exotic species from being transported, your boat should be dry for about 5 days before you launch into a new body of water. And so it's really important to inspect and to clean your boat before going into a new body of water. It's critical to have the general public to help us with our monitoring efforts. The more eyes out there, the better to look for exotic species.
Public awareness is definitely spreading, and you see a lot more people going to the car wash facilities and cleaning their boats. You didn't see that as often before, but we really want to educate our guests that come to our place that we don't want to spread these across the state or out of state or anywhere for that matter.
Iowa's lakes and rivers are one of Mother Nature's most beautiful creations, and the experts at the Iowa Department of Natural Resources want to keep them that way. With your help, indigenous species can once again thrive, providing years of enjoyment for generations to come. To find out what you can do to help, visit us at iowadnr.gov or call the number on your screen.